Hey, how's everybody doing? Good probably, but after making this video, of course, my comment section won't look so good. It remains blank most of the time, but maybe someday, and I know that for sure, but that doesn't mean just to stay safe, I would turn a blind eye on what I felt while reading this manga, for which I have been hyped for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, but as it turns out, it wasn't anything close to my expectations. This was one such manga that was under the pretense and deceit of being a serious manga, and at times had me thinking, well, maybe like Gundam Double Zeta, it would redeem itself, but betraying my expectations, it never did so. And there are many other things which did leave a sour taste in my mouth as I completed reading it, and that very manga in discussion is Dorohedoro. Well, as I said in my previous video about uploading 2 videos last week, and if I haven't made myself clear to you all till now, I don't make content unless I finish reading the manga, and there were many times when I felt like dropping Dorohedoro since it wasn't just making any sense, and every stuff that was happening did feel very out of the track, and I would explain all those in just a matter of minutes. And if still you aren't satisfied, well, go and read it and check it by yourself. By the way, I must say there were many things to read and see, of course, and oh boy, those were 2 huge chunk of muscles. At least that would have you going if there's nothing else. So the plot of Dorohedoro is very pretentious and convoluted. There's nothing very serious or entrancing that would hook you up to it. It's about one lizard-headed guy and a girl who live in an apocalyptic dystopian world where every sort of crime is just very common. And the guy who goes by the name Kaiman wants to discover his identity, but in the process gets involved in a twisted rabbit hole, unaware and unsure about the path it's leading to. And thus there's the introduction of several other characters who play active role in the series and have their recurring appearances in it. There are devils, sorcerers, and a freaking cockroach. So what was it? Men in Black Part 4? I mean, it just gets weird as you go on. Well, that's about it, since if I go on, I have to dive into some futile details that just won't do any good. Dorohedoro at its early stage seemed like a Urasawa Sensei's manga like Monster and his later works, where each stuff in the story gets associated with some character and later making them part of the story and providing them with some value and credibility in it. But unlike Urasawa Sensei, who used such method of writing seriously, here in Dorohedoro everything was pretty loose and just not standing out, and layering it with a comedic tone at every given moment felt very weird and agonizing. I mean, that's the very reason why I didn't like Gintama. But when Gintama's stories does get serious, there's very few that could probably match its peak moments. I mean, after I completed reading it, I wasn't sure what should I take note from this series. Would it be the gross characteristics? Would it be that there's gore and brutality but with a comedic undertone in it? Or would it be that the girl Nikaido gets naked after every 5 or so chapters? Well, the last point is certainly worth remembering though, but as I was saying, there's nothing worth noting in here. Although the plot might be very uninspiring, but you'd be surprised when you learn that it's the same with the development as well. Even after introducing characters in justified place, the story just didn't sit right with them. The potential of many of them just were shaken off in the process to cultivate a huge amount of side characters. There was the lack of purpose in them, and even if there was, it was made to look comical. If that's how the creator intended to do it, well, it's fine and all, but that doesn't make a good story. The protagonist Kaiman, I guess, he's the one of the greater importance in here. Yeah, so Kaiman was just a good protagonist because most of the time he was missing from the panels since other side characters were receiving their developments, and when he was there, some other characters took his spotlight graciously, and not until the time of the final boss fight he was just treated as an ordinary character of the same relevance as the other ones, but with only one difference, and that being that the story and its attributes were based on him. So that's all there is to him. As for the antagonist, can't reveal, because he gets developed as the story progresses. But as for the primary one, and I quite frankly don't know that dude's last name, but he was good. His presence did feel very surreal, and he had Noe, yes, the dream girl under whose charm I took upon the burden to complete this manga. Although she looked like Lemillion from My Hero Academia, by the way, you all can comment how I ruined your day, I still wanted her to receive more development. Her character development, I mean. Well, what can I say more? Dude, I'm just feeling sleepy right now. Truly, there isn't anything vaguely interesting about this manga. Anyways, the art in terms of body structure, it was well done, but the art itself, as in surroundings and the environment, felt very jarring and rough. The paneling was good and concise, so no complaint regarding that. Bro, this probably might be my very first video where all I am doing is just complaining, but I have an angelic side as well, you know. So let's talk about some good stuff. Dorohedoro, although had severe pacing issue, but it did the simultaneous story development, which I'm a huge fan of. Well, not to the extreme like Durarara, but sufficient enough to pull it through. And also since it has Noi, not to mention that, and it's tough, you know. Can't remember now, so that concludes the video. Now, if you want to read it just to please your friends, go on. And since there's Nikaido and Noi, at times it might get interesting. But for the rest part, you still can read it. It isn't downright horrendous, just not something that can be brought into examples of having awesome stories. That's all. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share and subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any further content related to anime and manga. And